Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Woodman, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will be talking about using the rule of three to organize your speech. This is important for helping your audience understand what you will talk about in your speech and how they can follow along with what you will say. This will also help your audience sense a pattern in your speech. As the name says, you are structuring your speech to talk about three things. For example, you could be talking about past, present, and future. Three reasons to believe something. First, second, and third, in order. The rule of three says that ideas or arguments put forward in three words or three parts in a trio of some shape or form, in the words of speech coach Dave Lynchen, are, quote, more interesting, more enjoyable, and more memorable for your audience, unquote. Let's look more into the science behind this. Back in 1956, Harvard University cognitive psychologist George Miller laid the groundwork for modern theories on human memory, arguing that our, quote, short-term memory, unquote, should only hold between 5 and 9, quote, chunks of information, unquote, with a chunk referring to a digit or word or any, quote, meaningful unit, unquote. The title of his landmark paper on the subject was, quote, the magical number 7 plus or minus 2, unquote. In recent years, however, cognitive psychologists such as Professor Nelson Cohen of the University of Missouri, who says he is, quote, interested in what the human mind can do and does do, unquote, have suggested the number of chunks is much smaller, while also distinguishing between short-term memory, our mind's capacity for simply holding on to a small amount of data or information for a short duration of time, and working memory, our mind's capacity for both holding and processing a small amount of information over a short period of time. Multiple studies of our working memory, quote, converge on the notion that reliably people can remember up to 3 basic units or chunks or ideas at once, unquote. Cohen stated, quote, 3 is a good rule of thumb, unquote. Cohen conducted running span experiments where participants are offered a list of items, but the list ends very abruptly. Participants were then asked to recall the last few items, and as Cohen stated, quote, people can only usually remember about 3 items, unquote. In a 2010 paper, Cohen noted how, quote, mathematical simulation suggests that under certain simple assumptions, searches through information are most efficient when the groups to be searched include about 3.5 items on average, unquote. So we are seeing that people are generally remember 3 things in a short period of time. Patterns also play a role here because patterns are often how we process information. Again, the science is clear that people gravitate toward groups of 3 because our brains are always looking for patterns. And 3 happens to be the smallest number that allows us to see a pattern. If something happens once, it is just a one-off. Twice, it is a coincidence. But when it happens 3 times, we tend to see a pattern, and a pattern makes us think, quote, oh, something predictable is actually going on, unquote. It gives us a sense of order and comfort and understanding. When you see people use the rule of 3, you are likely to see a wave of applause that comes rushing in at the end. For example, when you watch Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, he ended it by saying, quote, when we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank you Almighty, we are free at last, unquote. You can see how he used the rule of 3 to mention the 3 groups of people and saying free at last 3 times. You will also see how this structure primed the audience to give their applause at the end of his speech. According to academic and speech coach Max Atkinson in his book, Our Master's Voices, he unpacked how the best speakers use a rule of 3 method to try and catch applause from the audience in what he calls clap traps. How does this work? You hit a crowd with 3 words, 3 lines, 3 phrases, boom, boom, boom. The feelings rise with each part of the sequence, and they are ready to hit you back at the climax with applause. This shows that if you want to get your audience to give you cheers in your speech, you need to give them a pattern that will indicate when they should cheer. In this case, the rule of 3 is useful in this aspect. The rule of 3 is much more than a rhetorical device. It is also an organizing principle for our thoughts and our arguments. According to Cohen, the cognitive psychologist, 3 gives you a stable structure. It gives you a quote. It gives you a beginning, middle, and end. When you look at ancient times, it was Aristotle in his Poetics who said, quote, "A whole story is what has a beginning and middle and end," unquote. Those are 3 parts. In current times, the Polynetter Institute's Roy Peter Clark expands upon this in his book, Writing Tools, 50 Essential Strategies for Every Writer. Clark said, quote, "Use 1 for power, use 2 for compassion, contrast, use 3 for completeness, wholeness, and roundness," unquote. You can use that same logic with your speeches, presentations, and arguments. You want your audience to feel like your presentation is whole and complete, so consider applying the rule of 3 when you are structuring your remarks. If, as researchers such as Cohen suggest, your audience is only going to remember 3 things you tell them, what do you want them to be? Make sure you know so that they leave with the message you intend. The worst thing you can do when you are presenting your arguments in public is to lack structure, ramble, or be all over the place. If you do not like listening to someone ramble, then you should not be that person and should not give that kind of presentation. Now that you know the context of the rule of 3, let's go over how to use it. Separate your speech, presentation, or argument into an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. In the body paragraphs, make sure you present 3 main arguments. In the conclusion, make sure you summarize and repeat those 3 main arguments. To help your audience know what you will say, you can tell them in advance that you plan to use the rule of 3 by listing your main objectives, so that the audience knows what pattern you are following. This gets people's attention because, as we discussed, most of us have been hardwired to recognize patterns of 3, and by saying it out loud, it is like giving your audience directions. They know where they're about to go, and they will have an easier time following along. Plus, as we have discussed, we all have a short-term working memory that can only really store and process, at best, around 3 pieces of new information at any one time. Sticking to the rule of 3 will mean your audience can easily keep track of what you are saying. Andrew Dolgan, the founder and editor of the public speaking and presentation skills website 6 Minutes, has usefully summarized a variety of ways in which the rule of 3 can be deployed to structure your speech or argument. There is the introduction, body, and conclusion, or 3 main points, or 3 stories, or pros, cons, and recommendations, 3 arguments, 3 items, 3 points. As Dolgan puts it, quote, "Limit yourself to your best 3 points. Any fewer and your message won't be compelling. Any more and your message risks becoming tedious," unquote. All in all, using the rule of 3 will help your listeners follow along with what you will say based on a pattern you establish at the beginning of your speech. It also keeps yourself structured and making sure you do not lose track of what you will say. In the next video, we will talk about handling a Gish galloper when someone rapidly says a bunch of claims. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the post notifications so you will be notified when I post my next video. I appreciate your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you are the changemaker our society needs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you soon.